I have two sisters, Shirley, who is 28, and Mary, who is 21. Shirley's getting married, and her naturally bossy and controlling nature has caused few dramas in all the months of planning. At the beginning, Shirley had 6 bridesmaids, me, Mary, 3 friends, and her sister-in-law. Friend walked away because Shirley wanted us to contribute $300 each for the bachelorette. And a few weeks later, her sister-in-law walked away because Shirley wanted the 2 blondes of the group, her and Mary, to go brunette so that we could all match. All of this stress has caused Shirley to act even more controlling and snappy, especially to our little sister, a very passive person who has always sought her approval. Mary changed her hair color, lost 3 kilos, agreed to look after the guests' children during part of the reception, and got a week off work to help her prepare everything, all because Shirley wanted her to. Finally, the big day came yesterday, and Shirley was yelling at everyone during hair and makeup. At some point, she caught Mary eating and made a rude comment about that being the reason why she still looks fat in the dress. I must add that Shirley got her a dress 2 sizes smaller than everyone else's. I bit my tongue and tried to understand that she was just under a lot of stress and not to ruin her one special day. I took Mary and went to do our makeup in another room until our sister calmed down, which caused some drama, but Shirley got over it quickly. The biggest drama happened during the reception. Mary thought she was supposed to watch the children during the speeches, cutting the cake, and first dances to make sure no child ruined the footage of those moments. But before any of that could happen, I found Shirley yelling in Mary's face in the back of the venue. Apparently, there was some essential footage Shirley wanted to get at the beginning of the ceremony, and it was now ruined because Mary was somewhere else. I intervened. Shirley started yelling at me, and I yelled back. She said we were ruining her wedding, and I told her that we would do better on her next one. Eventually, Mary, who had had a few drinks, threw up from the stress. Needless to say, Shirley got even angrier. I could take the yelling, but when she grabbed Mary's arm, I reached my breaking point and finally walked out, taking Mary with me. We missed about 70% of the reception, leaving Shirley without a maid of honor's speech and without babysitting. Word got around, and some people told me that everyone was talking about it and speculating what happened. Mary didn't want to leave, and she is feeling really bad that Shirley is not talking to us yet. Now, I'm wondering if I should have just sucked it up for a few more hours instead of ruining her special day. We are all really close, and I don't know if it was worth damaging our relationship for a bit of an attitude. But I couldn't stand to see Mary treated so poorly by someone she looks up to so much. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Okay, let's move on with the main story. Hello, I don't use Reddit and made this account to post about an issue with the very same sisters a couple of years ago, and now I'm back. I'm stuck in a tough situation between my 2 sisters, Shirley 30 and Mary 22. Shirley's always been the bossy big sister, and Mary's the sweet, passive one who'll do anything to keep the peace. This dynamic has been our norm for as long as I can remember. Shirley and her husband have tried to have children for 2 years now, but the 3 pregnancies she had during this time were terminated before the 11th week. They've been devastated, which I genuinely feel for. The problem is that Shirley latched onto the idea of Mary carrying the baby for her. Mary's set to graduate from college in 4 months, and the plan is to start the process immediately after. Mary says she's okay with it, but she always just looks sad about the things she'll miss, like partying or her favorite foods, since Shirley will have her move in to make sure she's following a specific pregnancy diet, or she seems anxious about the process itself. When we've talked about it, she said things like, "Shirley's done a lot for me, this is the least I can do for her." Or, "She's really counting on me, I don't want to let her down." She keeps brushing off her own doubts, and it's so obvious to me that she's only agreeing because Shirley's guilt-tripping her. Mary seems to also be mourning her body, doing a lot of body checks in the mirror, and once she laughed anxiously, joking about how it's all gonna go. I think partly because, yeah, it will change a lot, but also because Shirley keeps making comments about how Mary won't be cute and skinny anymore. These comments make me furious, But every time I push back, Shirley dismisses me, saying she's just telling the truth and I don't understand sacrifice for family. I'm worried because Mary has always looked up to Shirley, to the point of idolization. I think she's afraid of saying no because she doesn't want to disappoint her and because of the absolute hell she'd make. But I can see how uncomfortable she is when this whole surrogacy thing comes up. She also keeps looking up pregnancy complications and birth videos, and I can see she's so anxious about the whole thing that I don't want to overstep or make things worse. But I also can't just sit back and watch Mary sacrifice her body and mental health for something she doesn't want. I've tried talking to her about whether this is what she truly wants, but she just deflects and says Shirley has been through a lot and deserves this. How do I get more involved? How do I approach Mary without making her feel more pressured? How do I help her see that it's okay to say no if she doesn't want this? Would going to Shirley help with anything? Edit for those asking about official clinics. They didn't go to a clinic with Mary specifically yet, but I'm afraid that won't be enough to get her an easy way out. They had to have some treatments, exams where, from what I understood, only about 20% of Shirley's eggs were good for use. They've had talks about how if the pregnancy has risks because of her eggs, she's open to having a kid not of her own, as she puts it. That's one of the reasons why she wants Mary, because if she needs the eggs, it's the closest DNA she has to her own. So when they find out a clinic won't do it, I think they'll just spend a few months getting used to the idea of doing it, and then do it. Okay, let's check out the community comments. It's my understanding that a legitimate surrogacy place, doctor won't sanction a surrogate who's never had children. Are they doing this legitimately, or is this some do-it-yourself thing? This is simply not appropriate, and from Shirley's comments about Mary's body, it almost sounds like she's partly doing it so Mary isn't thin and cute anymore. Is there a doctor involved who could stop it? Somebody said, "My mom has owned and operated a surrogacy agency for decades, and I worked for her for several years to put myself through school." What I can say from experience is that if you are in the US, the laws vary greatly from state to state. Most states require surrogates to undergo a psychological analysis, at the very least. Many require surrogates to have had prior successful pregnancies. There is a reason for these requirements too. They want to avoid situations like this where people are obligated and don't actually want to get pregnant. They also want to avoid situations where the surrogates have any reason to want to keep the child after the pregnancy. Having your own children to return to is a massive help in avoiding this particular situation. Hopefully, whatever clinic they go to for the implantation will have one or more of these requirements, and they will have to stop and have her evaluated. We can only hope they don't decide to avoid this by doing things the old-fashioned way, which unfortunately happens more than you'd like to know. Somebody said, unless they don't go through an agency, she'll be disqualified since she's never carried a pregnancy to term. She needs to say no. It doesn't matter what Shirley has been through. She has baby rabies and doesn't care if she destroys Mary's mental and physical health in order to get what she wants. It doesn't entitle her access to Mary's body. She's selfish. Where are your parents? Original poster replied, Mom is dead and Dad mostly stays out of it and just does what Shirley wants. I think Mary is like this because Mom died when she was younger, and Shirley was kind of like the female authority figure in her life. Another commenter said, your sister resents Mary and is trying to steal her youth to make her pay for having to raise her. Your father screwed up, and you being the middle child are trying to fix it. You need to loudly protect Mary and stop pussyfooting around a bully. Mary is being coerced. Full stop. She has never had a child, so this shouldn't even be an issue. They want to have Mary sleep with her sister's husband to make a baby. So basically, rape your sister. You aren't mad enough. Freak your sister using her infertility to steal your sister's youth. Read that again, they may want to grape your sister. Say that to yourself every day. Be big mad about this whole situation. Broadcast it to family and friends. If you have to, help Mary move to a whole other state. Protect your baby sister. What the hell? Update. I had so many useful comments, and I want to thank you all. I'm not exactly eloquent and don't like to ramble in case the information I'm giving is not really necessary, so I think I didn't provide enough context and didn't explain things right in my last post. So I hope to clarify a few things with the update also. How the timeline of events happen. Shirley's in-laws are kinda rich and have this obsession about their firstborn and only son having his heir. Shirley is kinda scared of her mother-in-law and is really feeling the pressure. Shirley and her husband try for 2 years to have a baby naturally. After miscarriage number 3, they went to a clinic, not to try anything yet, just to know what's wrong. From what I understood, the clinic said only a few of Shirley's eggs were good and that her husband should be healthier so he can better his sperm. Shirley has the idea of having Mary as a surrogate. This is only an idea, not discussed with clinics or anything. Mary agrees, and it becomes official that she will carry their baby. When the possibility of Shirley's good eggs still not being good enough was brought up, the idea was to do it, and if Mary has a miscarriage, then they will use Mary's eggs. Which is why I said that when they found out that the clinics would not allow Mary to be a surrogate, that they would probably do it homemade. Because the only reason I can think of why they wouldn't do it would be because they want Shirley's egg. But since I learned they were open to Mary's egg, then yeah, they'd see no problem going DIY. So at the time of me writing the post, the plan was going to a clinic, doing IVF with Shirley's egg, and putting into Mary. And if that didn't work, which everyone seemed to be thinking is what would happen, doing IVF with Mary. So after I posted, I did a few things that were suggested in the comments. Firstly, I showed Mary this post and the comments. She only read about a handful of them, and then she threw up. She does that quite frequently under stress and didn't want to keep going. This way, I convinced her to go to a doctor friend of mine and had them explain the whole process to her, how that would change her body, how she might die, the bonding hormone she'd have to the baby, breastfeeding really freaked her out, etc. Then we explained the situation and asked them for a letter stating that Mary was not suitable for pregnancy. Then I went to have a conversation with Shirley. Shirley has really surprised me with this whole situation since the beginning. I thought she'd definitely argue with it and demand to go to said doctor and want to know what exams were made and take Mary to a different doctor. But no, she just started crying. Her mother-in-law is really the only person who Shirley is not the one in control with, and it's really weird to me how much this whole thing is stressing her out. Then I started my presentation, my literal slideshow presentation, and I did what another person had suggested, which was to use Shirley's insecurities against her. I told her about how if it was Mary's egg and Mary carried it, the whole family would see it as Mary's kid. It also helped that Mary told me that in the dinner where the plan was announced to his parents, his mother said something along the lines of, "Her kid? Oh, what a pretty girl, those pretty eyes. You know, there are evils that come for good." I told Shirley we could IVF Mary's egg and put it in her, that we could even keep it a secret that it was Mary's. She seemed to like the idea, but was insecure with what would happen if that also didn't work out. Because again, we don't really know if her uterus isn't also a part of the problem. I told her that we could then put her good eggs or Mary's eggs into a different surrogate. She was against the idea at the beginning because she's a control freak, and she knows no one else would put up with her crazy rules besides Mary. And also mainly because she kind of sees Mary as her own, an extension of herself, I think. So Mary being pregnant almost feels like herself being pregnant. So then I started talking about having Mary in her home, how for the first 5 months she wouldn't even look pregnant, so it'd just be hot, pretty, naive Mary walking around her home in pajamas and making breakfast for her husband, how in every family event and doctor's appointment, the attention would be all on Mary, which of course would be different with another surrogate because Mary is cute and lovable, and doesn't mother-in-law already seem to like Mary more? And I repeated that again. If she or another person got pregnant, no one would have to know that it's Mary's, but everyone would know if Mary carried it, because everyone knows that no clinic would allow that, so it'd be obvious that they did DIY. And Shirley finally accepted it. Mary was so relieved when we invited her over to tell her. Shirley told her to not look so happy, and it makes me a bit nauseous to think she maybe knew Mary wasn't into it, and she wanted to start the exams right away, even though she was insistent into only doing it after Coachella before. So I guess she does truly want to. She also may be scared Shirley will change her mind and is trying to hurry things up. It's only been 2 weeks, so it's a miracle that they even got an appointment and one exam each. Shirley, Mary, and brother-in-law, still no results. But the current plan is putting Mary's egg inside Shirley. I've tried to talk to Mary about how she will feel having a kid, that it's still hers in the world, but she seems too relieved to even think too much about it. She just makes a joke about how she's just happy her abs will stay in place, and that's it. I don't know if I should do more. Thank you to everyone who commented, and I really hope I won't ever have to use this account again, lol. Top comments. The fact that your happy update is still horrific says a lot about your family dynamics. Mary needs therapy. Now you all do. The meds she would have to be on to harvest her eggs are not fun. There could be a child of hers that she has no claim to. She's only doing this because she's still being pressured. This is still so screwed up. Doing IVF for an egg harvest is not a walk in the park. Mary will put on weight, could be up to 10 kilograms. She has a higher chance of needing her gallbladder removed or contracting cancer due to the amount of hormones that will be pumped into her. She could want to vomit every day. There could be deathly problems on the table like aspirating vomit. The egg harvest may not work, or she may need more than one to get a viable embryo. Women who do IVF take that risk because they hope that the risk will be worthwhile. How is it worthwhile to Mary? All that will happen is that Mary will see her child at every family event and be mentally screwed up. Then Shirley will pressure her for baby number 2 and baby number 3. Heaven forbid that the child is the wrong gender, and then the subsequent children are also the wrong gender, so they keep trying for more. So eventually, Mary will be sitting around the table watching her kids. Nice outcome. You and Shirley are a bad influence for Mary. She obviously doesn't want to be pregnant or have a baby in any way, but you don't care. You just made a PowerPoint presentation to force something else on her that's just as bad. You all know Mary does not want this. She's too nice and scared to stand up to her bullies, aka her sisters. If it's just the eggs, then why don't you do it? Since you think it's so simple and easy, you don't get to decide what to do with Mary's body. Leave her alone. This is abuse. You sound so proud of yourself, but should be ashamed instead. Just like you don't want to donate or get pregnant, Mary doesn't want to either. But you only think of what you and Shirley want. This is ridiculous. Mary even threw up. Do you know that your body does that in extreme conditions and with abuse? It's not normal or healthy to throw up because she just feels pressured. She's extremely scared. Leave her alone. No is no.